He was wearing a bulletproof vest when he died. It didn't matter. The bullet went into the back of his head, fired from his own gun. There were no fingerprints on it. 9 days before they found his body, an anonymous woman called his wife with one message: "Chuck is all right." Then she read out a Bible verse about death. Police ruled it a suicide. His family never believed that for a second. And 13 years later, when this story finally aired on national television, 2 more people connected to it turned up dead. This is the case of Charles Morgan. And the deeper you go, the less anyone agrees on where it ends. Charles "Chuck" Morgan was 39 years old, and by every visible measure, he'd made it. He ran his own escrow agency in Tucson, the kind of quiet, respectable job that closes real estate deals and moves money through the right paperwork. He had a wife, Ruth, 4 daughters. He was a Mason, active in his community, a normal family in a normal part of a city that, in 1977, was anything but normal underneath the surface. Tucson in the 1970s had a problem most of its residents didn't know about. Organized crime families from the East Coast had been quietly relocating there for years, drawn by the climate, and by an Arizona law that let buyers purchase land through anonymous blind trusts. It was, functionally, a legal money laundering machine. And escrow agents, men exactly like Chuck Morgan, were the ones who processed the paperwork. By some accounts, Chuck wasn't just processing paperwork. He may have been a confidential witness in a state land fraud investigation tied to organized crime. Interviewed about it just weeks before his life fell apart. What he knew, and who knew that he knew it, is where this story actually begins. March 22nd, 1977, Chuck drops his 2 daughters off at school, like any other morning. Then he vanishes. For 3 days, nothing. Then, in the middle of the night, he shows up at his own front door. He's missing a shoe. There's a plastic zip-tie cuff still around one ankle. He can't speak. With a pen and paper, he writes it down. He'd been kidnapped. Someone had painted a hallucinogenic drug onto his throat. He believed it would kill him or drive him insane if it reached his bloodstream. He begs Ruth not to call the police. If she does, he writes, they'll kill the whole family. For a week, Ruth nurses him back to health with an eyedropper before his voice even returns. And when it does, what he tells her doesn't make things clearer. It makes them stranger. He says he secretly worked as a federal agent, fighting organized crime undercover. He says they took his government identification. He says he escaped his captors near the airport in Phoenix. None of this was ever confirmed by any agency, then or since. Whatever the truth was, Chuck was convinced he was still in danger. He started wearing a bulletproof vest under his clothes. He grew a beard. He personally drove his daughters to school every day and told the school office that no one else was ever allowed to pick them up. 2.5 months later, June 7th, he disappears again. This time, before he goes, he tells his father something specific. If anything happens to him, there's a letter, and it names who's responsible. That letter has never been found. 9 days pass. Then an unidentified woman calls Ruth. Her message is short: Chuck is all right. Ecclesiastes 12, 1-8. It's a passage about the body failing, about dust returning to the earth, about a life ending. 2 days after that call, Chuck's body is found in the desert, 30 feet off a highway near San Juan Springs, shot once in the back of the head, with his own .357 Magnum found lying next to him. No fingerprints on the gun, but gunshot residue on his own hand. When they found him, Chuck was wearing more than the vest: a belt buckle that hid a knife, a concealed holster. Whatever he thought was coming, he dressed for it. In his car, police find a note in his own handwriting, driving directions to the exact spot where he'd be found. Weapons, ammunition, a CB radio. In the back seat, wrapped in a handkerchief, a fragment of one of his own teeth, and a pair of sunglasses that weren't his. And then there's the $2 bill, clipped inside his underwear, where no one would find it by accident. On the front, 7 Spanish surnames, each starting with a different letter, A through G, a reference to Ecclesiastes 12, the same verse from the phone call, with arrows drawn to specific digits in the bill's serial number, numbered 1 through 8. On the back, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, numbered 1 through 7, and a hand-drawn map, roads between Tucson and the Mexican border, marking 2 towns with long-standing reputations as smuggling routes. To this day, no one has ever officially explained what any of it means. 2 days after his body was found, a woman calling herself Green Eyes phoned the sheriff's department. She claimed to be the same caller from before. She said she'd met Chuck at a motel shortly before he died, and that he'd shown her a briefcase full of cash. According to her, it was meant to buy his way out of a contract on his life. Despite all of it, the bulletproof vest, the missing fingerprints, the coded bill, the anonymous calls, the Pima County Sheriff's Department officially ruled Chuck Morgan's death a suicide. Financial pressure, or fear for his safety, they said, pushed him to it himself. But here's what almost never gets said out loud. The sheriff's department wasn't the only official body that looked at this case. The county's own medical examiner's office reviewed the same evidence and classified the death as unsolved. 2 government offices, 2 different official conclusions. That contradiction was never resolved, and the ruling was never overturned. What happened next only made the official story harder to believe. 3 weeks after Chuck's death, 2 men claiming to be FBI agents searched the Morgan home top to bottom. When Devereaux later contacted the actual FBI, they said they had no record of the case at all. Around the same time, Chuck's impounded car was broken into, while it was sitting in police custody. His office was ransacked. Devereaux kept digging anyway. What he found was that Chuck's escrow company had processed millions of dollars in gold and platinum transactions in the years before his death. Bullion and platinum that, according to Devereaux's reporting, didn't actually exist. The money moved through the accounts and came out clean on the other side. Some of it, he believed, originated in Southeast Asia. Chuck, he concluded, had kept a second set of records that could prove it. This case aired on Unsolved Mysteries in February 1990. It's the part of the story that almost never makes it into shorter retellings, and it's the reason we're telling this one differently. 3 months after that broadcast, a man named Doug Johnston was found shot dead in his car outside his office in Phoenix. He worked directly across the street from Devereaux. He drove a car nearly identical to his. Devereaux has said publicly that he believes the bullet was meant for him. A year after that, a journalist named Danny Casolaro reached out to Devereaux, asking to see everything he'd gathered on Chuck Morgan's death. Casolaro died under disputed circumstances before that exchange ever happened. A case that remains its own unresolved mystery, separate from this one, but forever tangled with it. Ruth Morgan, Chuck's wife, died in 2006, never having accepted suicide as the answer. Years later, one of their daughters, Megan Heidi, spoke publicly about her father for the first time. "My father had a lot of information about people here in Tucson that could have been very detrimental," she said. "There was a lot of information about politicians, people who are still alive, who still work in our government. He had that information, and they wanted to silence him." The case remains open, unofficially. No one has ever been charged. If you have any information about the death of Charles Morgan, Pima County Sheriff's Department Cold Case Unit is still the right place to send it. We tell this story to keep it in front of people, not to entertain, but because somewhere, someone might still know something. If you've made it this far, what do you think that $2 bill was really for? Tell us below.